All right, let's put together this section there. Okay, so we have everything looking good. Let's back to our code. Before we move forward, let's refactor some code here. Close this down. Because we do have, of course, this form. All of that is inside of our alert dialog. So let's refactor all of this so that we have something better. Okay, so I'm going to click that and command period. Let's extract widget. I'm going to give a name, call this book details dialog. Hit enter, and voila. It took all the necessary parameters there. And if we go at the bottom here, it's all created there. Very handy. All right, let's do what we always do, is to literally extract this out of this file. Let's go to our widgets. There, we're going to create a new file. Call this book details dialog.dart. I'm going to paste it all in there. We need to do all of the things that we've done many times. Pass. That's good. And we need to pass the book object, class, and let's click to see what else we need to do. This is just all the mundane things that we have to do either way. So, okay, let's go ahead to cited button. We're going to import that. And there's one last thing. I believe it's the color. Okay, let's get all that. And go back to our main screen. First of all, let's save that. Back to our main screen. We're going to have some issues, of course, because it doesn't know what this is. We know what it is. We are going to import that. All right, let's save this and run just to make sure everything is still connected and we haven't added any other little bugs. Okay, still working. Great. All right, that's always nice. Now we can go back to our book details dialog class that we just created and continue. All right, so what we want to add is this structure here. Okay, so let's start with these first two buttons. Right below this book cover link there, we're going to add something, which means this one here. So right below here, where that is again after the book cover. I can just put something here. First of all, let's put a sized box because we need to give it some space, right? So sized box like this. I'm going to give it a height of about 5. And then let's put a text button icon like this. And this is going to be nothing for now. I'm going to put icons. And the icon I want in this case is going to be book sharp. That works. For the label, at first I'm going to say text. It's going to say start reading like this. Forget to finish with our semicolon, I think. Let's go. Let's put a comma there. All right, so we have that. And the next thing we need to add, below that is another button called mark as read. Let's just add all of those so that we don't have to think about that, because we will need to do some work around all of this. Let's copy this and put right below there. In this case, it's going to be, let's start with say mark as read. And for the icons, it's going to be icons done. Okay, save this. Okay, there it is. Those two buttons there. All right, so we have the start reading and the mark as read. Now, what is the main concept here? Well, the idea is once they have added the book, you go ahead and add a book, as you've seen, and all of the books will end up inside of the reading list, because that's the book. Those are the books that you're interested in reading at some point. When you're ready to read, you click one of these, except we haven't added any click event there, but it doesn't matter. You click here, then we pull the information from this book to show here, right? So it should have all of the book information that we have so far. And then you can decide to say, okay, start reading. The moment you say start reading, the book, which is going to be in the reading list, is going to be added into the reading now list. Okay. And at that point, you can also add some notes if you want to add those notes, of course. But since this is the beginning, you probably won't add anything. That's fine. But at least on the database, when you say update, it's going to put that book into the queue to be read, which then will be seen as adding those books into this list. That's the idea. Of course, they can delete as well this book. So while we're here, let's go ahead and pull all of this information from this book that was clicked so we can see what it's showing, or so we can see the contents of that book, like title, author, book cover, and so forth. Let's do that. So back to our book detail, we noticed that when we extracted this, we also passed a book object. Makes sense, because we'll need that. Now, one thing to also remember is that because we want to pull in information right away from our book object into these fields, we need to think a little bit different here. So we have our text editing controllers. These are objects that control each text field, right, from our form, which means we can actually add default text to those fields through our text editing controller. So it would be very beneficiary to us to actually instantiate these text editing controllers inside of our build method, because this is always called when the widget is being built. What I mean by that is, now I can say something like this: text controller is going to be equal to text editing controller, like that, and I can pass the text and say book object dot. Now we're going to have a problem here because it's going to say that, well, this can be accessed as etc. because it's final. So we'll need to structure a few things here. So instead of passing all of these as such, what we're going to do, we are going to delete all of this. We're not going to instantiate any of those. So which means I'm going to delete all of these. All we want to instantiate really is going to be the book object. Okay, which means this is not going to work still, which means then I can just get rid of all of this and start all over inside there, like that. Okay, so then I can say something like this is equal to text editing controller and pass the text and say book dot title in this case to give, so that we can pass this title book so that it shows here. Do the same thing. We can get rid of these finals like that. And let's add a few other fields, because remember we have more than those two. We have the book cover and the thought. So I'm going to just copy all of this. In fact, let's go back to main here. It's going to be these guys. So for now, because I just want to see the names, I'm just going to put them there. Photo. Let's say photo. The photo URL, and then notes. I'm just going to copy this, by the way, and just put there book.notes, like that. So I'm going to delete this, which also means if we go back, save this, go back to our main screen where we're calling our book details there, we're going to have some issues. In fact, that means then we can get rid of some things. We no longer need these guys, right? Because we are instantiating them inside of this build method. Okay, which means then if we go down here, we're going to have an issue because we no longer are passing the text fields and so forth. So we can just delete all of that. The only thing that we want to pass is, of course, the book object, which we're getting from our main screen, and we're passing it all in around here and get that information. There's a few fields that I did not add. So we have author, we have title. Still have the title. So this is going to be the book cover. So it's going to be the photo controller that we just created. I was using the same thing. This one too. I need the notes, I believe. Yeah, there we go. Let's save this. Now we should be able to see, and voila, each time we click either one of these guys, we should be able to pull that information of that book and populate everything there. Now the thoughts is empty because we don't have anything in our thoughts from our database, right? So this is just a new field. All right, there we go. So nothing really out of this world here. Let's click either one of these. We should get the correct book and populate everything. Just to make sure that you're not confused here, what we did really, we just restructure our code. It turns out that it wasn't necessary for us to, in main here, or book detail dialog, we had these fields and we're also passing them in the controllers per se, right? We no longer need that. All we need to pass in is the book object from our main screen so that the book details dialog can do all its work. In this case, we created those editing controllers ourselves inside of the build context. We restructured, of course, our book details dialog to accommodate that. Okay, and then we can do all sort of things. Then we can use those text title, the text controller, as you see there, the author, and so forth, to control each one of these text fields, as you see there. And so when our book details dialog is called, the first thing that happens is that it will call our build, which is going to instantiate our editing text, or text editing controller, I should say. And then as that happens, we are going to pass for each one of these, we're going to pass the actual information for each book. So that way you can see this, right? That's all. That's all indeed. All right, we're making good progress. Next, we are going to look at the logic behind these two buttons.